First of all, tell us, I know your married name is Hartley.
Yes.
Could you just tell us about where your own family came from first? And who you
My father and mother.
Yeah.
My father was from Waterford in Slieverue, and my mother was from Kilmagany in Kilkenny. You know where that is? Yeah, yeah. Followed by Kilmagany, yeah.
And they settled in Piltown?
Yeah, in Owning first, yeah, yeah. They both worked for the one company, one firm, Welch's and Templorum, you know, that they, in those days, they had travelling shops and that, and my father used to be out every day. They called to all the houses all over the country, up, you know, up miles from, they'd be out all day, he'd be out all day long, like, you know, selling groceries and everything, but people had no way of getting anything, we'll say, in those days, except that way, you know. My mother worked there for 23 years, from when she was 14 to when she got married.
And was she in the travelling shop as well?
No, she was just running the grocery, actually, in Templorum. Okay. Do you know Templorum? There's a big house there. Okay. That used to be Welch's in Templorum. And they had everything there, butchery, egg exporting company, bakery, everything, and all the people lived in like this, worked for them, you know. Right. So it was burned down then, the time of the Troubles. I don't know what would that be, Jim, 1922 or?
Yeah, why I wonder, Kitty, was it burned down?
My mother was working there, and she often told us that the family weren't allowed to bring out anything, but when whoever came to burn it, she was allowed to bring out her stuff. The people may be working there, but not the people who owned the house.
Not the Welches?
Welches, yeah.
What was wrong with the Welches?
Huh? I don't know. They did that to people, kind of, that were...
Yeah, but they did it in most cases to people who were bad landlords and that sort of thing.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's strange now.
Yeah.
They must have been involved with the with the Crown Forces, I suppose.
I don't know. They built it again anyway, and it went on afterwards, like, you know. And
maybe Kitty, they were supplying them.
Maybe, yeah. She was still there, and others that worked there were still there, like, you know. Okay.
And then you were born, like, they were living in the area in this.
Yeah.
So what happened then after that? After the 1922?
I don't know what year that was now. I'm just saying myself, like, is it around that time? Yeah. No.
They worked for themselves then, did they?
They were. My mother and father were married in. I know she was 38 or something. To be 1930, I'd say. You know, 1930. Yeah.
And then you were born in Piltown, in Owning?
Yeah, in Owning. They lived in a house there, like, for just up from the church for 2 years, you know, and then they bought the house in Piltown. They came there, yeah. Yeah.
And then and you went to school there in Piltown?
In Piltown, yeah. Okay. And Carrick, yeah.
And what was life like when you were small? Any memories from that time?
It was great, really, you know. I mean, you could go out, like, we'll say, rambling a few, you know, through fields and woods and everything else, and once you were back for your dinner and back for your tea and I mean, there's no such thing as anyone thinking like you'd be in danger or anything else. You know, children just were able to an awful lot of freedom, like, and looking back on it, the children can't have now. You know, so it was great.
And was there a good gang of children around that time in your area?
Yeah, I'll have to say now we had a very happy childhood, you know. Plenty rivers and streams and woods and all sorts of things to explore. Yeah. There were, we lived in the village, but others, like, you know, you wouldn't see as often during holiday time and that, you know, that everyone walked to school, of course, you know, that no such thing as a car pulling up then with children. And if it was an awfully wet day, there weren't that many in school at all because they just couldn't go, like, you know. Some walk miles.
And did you go to secondary school?
Yeah, in Carrick, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that unusual or was that normal for people to go to secondary school?
Well, people didn't go to college like in those days, except the very exceptional cases, and everyone kind of went to some school after leaving, we'll say, when you did your primary cert as was then, at 13 you did that. So we, at 14 then you went to, for a couple of years to kind of do domestic or secretarial work or whatever, so.
And then after Carrick, then where did you go? Where did you go next?
To work for the same company as my mother and father worked for all those years in Piltown, the Welshes. They had a shop. Well, it was looking back on it, it was the first maybe of the supermarkets. There on the cross. Do you know where Piltown? Do you know where Anthony's is?
Yes.
Well, the place opposite.
Yes.
There, like on the corner, as you go down towards what was the creamery then. I worked there for 8 years before I got married. And.
So it was like a big store.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, there were about 10 of us working there, like that'll take, and a couple of messenger boys and people like that as well, So did an awful lot of business, So
What kind of stuff did they sell there? What kind of?
Everything, we'd say, in the line of groceries and everything like that, but nothing in the line of vegetables or milk or anything. People just went to farmers for their milk and there was no such thing as bottled milk, pasteurised milk or anything way back. And then everyone grew vegetables in their gardens, which they had to do anyway, kind of during the war. And the emergency, as it was called in those days, during the emergency. And when people still had ration books when I went to work, and everyone got a ration book, we'd say, during the war, or the emergency. And you could only buy clothes, we'll say, if you had enough coupons to buy a dress or a coat or whatever. And people that couldn't afford much of things like that gave them to other people who would want maybe to buy more than...
Was that very frustrating for you as a young person, like that time?
No, we thought it not. The only thing was you only got a half an ounce of tea and 3/4 of a pound of sugar, I think, a week, and butter. Then I forget how much butter, but we were lucky. We had aunts in America who sent the tea on a regular basis, 5 pounds of tea at a time, and it was a gift, And then the butter, the dairy where the butter was made was at the end of our orchard. At home we had a garden and an orchard around the house, and we went down through the orchard and out in the gap, and got the butter at the creamery window, the dairy window. Got it, but some people had to eat margarine on their bread or whatever you could get, that, yeah.
I suppose people were more self-sufficient, weren't they? Doing their own baking.
Yeah, things were scarce now in shops and that. We say, for instance, the jam. They'd get in the jam at a certain time, and there was a joke back then, like that the shop assistants had their knees worn out, bending down and taking the jam out from under the counter and giving it to special customers. That kind of a thing. So.
Was there kind of a black market then, as regards?
There was, I think, yeah.
If you had money, you were...
Well, I don't know now. Maybe it was up more towards the north. I couldn't tell you. I don't know, really, But you'd hear at the black market, all right, but I had no experience of anything like that, Okay. Yeah.
And then where did you meet your husband? Was that a dance or anything or something? Or?
At a Pioneer Social in Carrick. He didn't dance at the particular time, and he was sitting on a windowsill. Well, I knew him beforehand, actually. He was sitting on a windowsill, minding all the women's handbags while they were all out dancing. I went over to talk to him because I knew him from a couple of years previously, So, anyway, I was 19, I think, at that time. And
was he from here, Slieverue?
Yeah.
And he was up in Carrick at a dance?
Well, they all were. We used to go to all these Pioneer Socials and things. It was a kind of in all the different parishes, we'll say there'd be mass and there'd be benediction and then there'd be a supper and there'd be a dance. Go to Kilmacow, Monkine, all those places they used to take place, Portlaw and all those places, like, you know, that organised by the Pioneer Total Abstinence Association, you know.
It's gas, because you wouldn't really associate that with kind of the social.
Yeah.
But it was very much part of it.
Oh, well, in those days, nobody kind of had to go into a pub before they went to a dance. Like, there was no such thing as anyone had, like we'll say, we used to go to the Monkine Hall. Now, when that opened, I was there the first night it opened, actually. And I mean, nobody, you know, no one would think of kind of men anyway, or anyone going into a pub like to have a drink before they went to the dance. You got your supper, tea and sandwiches and that, we'll say, at the thing, you know. And people bought them and that was it. No drinking whatsoever.
Okay. And then he was from down this way.
That's right, yeah, from there.
And so you said he wasn't a dancer.
He didn't in those days.
All right. Did you train him?
Kind of. Yeah, but he still didn't enjoy it that much, but still he always had to get out. Yeah.
So did you do the leading on the dance floor?
We muddled around, put it like that. I was no expert either.
And and then you obviously started to go out, and then did you come down to meet his people at some stage, or how did that work? How did it work in those days? Yeah, the whole the
hall up there in those days, like there'd be great dances in it, like, you know, and we'd organise coming a few of us would come down, we'll say, in a taxi, like to a dance in Slieverue and that and meet that way, and you know, and all that. So
okay.
Yeah. So.
And did he come up to meet your family up in Piltown?
Oh yeah,
okay.
Yeah. But then in 1951, I think it would be, he got a car.
Okay.
Well, his father bought a car. New car, but anyway, he was able to come up all the time then, like, you know, because his father didn't drive the car, he drove the car.
Okay.
You know, yeah, and that was the first car that very few had cars, we'll say, in those days, you know. So yeah.
And so when you first came to Slieverue, what was your impressions of it?
I thought the people were lovely, and I still do, you know, in comparison to other places, we'll say. I thought, even when I left the post office at the end, the people I missed so much, you know. I thought that there were lovely people, everyone around here, you know, that was the main impression of, you know.
So when you got married and you came here, you got a job in the post office, is that it?
No, my husband worked in Clover Meats, and we were getting this house anyway. My father-in-law gave the site for the house, and they owned the fields all around here, and so the county council were building the house, but we had to wait a year or two, so we lived over at the post office.
So that post office was in his family?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. A long time. I couldn't gauge how long, but well over 100 years, and at least, you know.
So his father and his grandfather were all postmasters and all that kind of stuff?
No, they were farmers down in Kilmurray, the house you're after coming from this morning.
Okay.
They came from there. There were 4 brothers and a sister, like there, you know. And so he married my mother-in-law, who was running the post office then, you know. I don't know what, way back, what year really. And he came up to the post.
Now, what was her name, the woman in the post office?
She was Alice Hartley, then Alice MacDonald from Galstown down the road. MacDonald. It's just about down below past the Rue Glen, just down there. They came, MacDonald from Galstown, yeah, okay. Yeah.
And then you worked in the post office what time? What year was that? Did you start?
Did I start?
Yeah.
My mother-in-law gave it up in 1974, and I ran it then until I gave up in 93.
Okay.
Yeah. She came up from Galstown when she was 12 to help an old aunt of her was running it. All her most of her life now, you know, and she died, that old aunt died in 1933 and she was 86. They're buried up in the cemetery there. I looked on Sunday even on the tombstone to check, and Anastasia Elward was her name, and she died in 1933, but my mother-in-law was helping her like all the years when she was older, you know, so she came up, we say, my mother-in-law was 12 when she came up in Gallstown, and she was born in 1904, so that's what she came up in 1916, and so she ran it then, you know, when Auntie Elward, they was called her, she was Anastasia Elward, and she ran it then, like, you know, until she was in poor health, like in her latter years, kind of running the post office, and she gave it up then, like, and I took it over, and she died in 1982. Yeah.
And like the post office was always a kind of central place for people to meet.
That's right. Everyone came for pensions, and Thursdays and Fridays were the busy were the busy days, and everyone came for their pension, and you got to know everyone and look forward to everyone coming and had the chat and all that, you know. Yeah.
So you'd remember a lot of the old people in the area then, wouldn't you?
Yeah, oh, I would, yeah. People that are, sure, how long am I here now? 1956, 2060, 61. 2000 and, what have we, 16 last year, that would be 60 years, would it, right now, 60?
You said it came in 56?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 60...
Yeah. My son was
61 years?
My son was born in 1957, and he was 60 there a couple of weeks ago. So she's next door. He's next door here. Yeah.
Okay. So, but would you remember then all the old characters from the area then?
Yeah, I suppose I would remember a lot of them. Kind of, you know, I'd sort of have to think and need prompting maybe, but you know, there's. I was able to get to know an awful lot of people that way, like, cause, I mean, my mother-in-law will say, when I was helping her, will say there, like, you know, and that, and well, after we'd been married, now she introduced me to everyone and anyone that, you know, everyone from the parish, that sort of a way, you know. It was different than if you weren't sort of in the public eye. Nowadays, people come to live in a place and they don't know who's next here or here. You know, the way it is wasn't like that in those days. Well, not when you're dealing with the public and that, you know. Yeah. Yeah.
Was there a bit where they were kind of getting to know you for a while first, or were they accepting straight away?
No, they'd accept you straight away, sure, because they knew your husband and knew, you know. Yeah. I found everyone so welcoming, like, you know.
Okay. And like, looking back at that time, I mean, what kind of things was very different, wasn't it, in those days?
Oh, yeah. It was, I suppose.
You said your husband worked in Clover.
That's right.
Which section was he in?
In the canning department, yeah. Canning, corn, beef and all things like that, you know.
And like, Slieverue had a big connection with Clover Meats.
Oh, there were hundreds, like, from everyone around here working in Clover Meats, like, you know, in those days. They gave great employment. Ferrybank and Slieverue, like, you know, they were mostly South Kilkenny worked in Clover Meats, yeah.
And there was no problem with you working in the post office. The other way in those days, often married women had to leave, couldn't work. There was never any problem with you in the post office as regards being married and all that kind of stuff.
How do you mean?
The other way, sometimes if someone, once they got married, they had to leave a job.
Oh no, it wasn't. You didn't work for them on post, we'll say, as it is now.
Okay.
P&T it was then. You didn't work for them. Your people in sub-post offices that ran sub-post offices were considered contractors.
Okay.
For the company.
So it was like a private enterprise.
Yeah. And I mean, you weren't really kind of, I would say, it should be different from working for a company, like, you know, different that way, sort of. And you were paid on what business you did. For instance, there'd be a survey done, we'll say, and it would be done every 3 years, or I can't remember, and I'm not sure, but anyway, and all pints, and they're all added up, and then your salary is dictated accordingly, that's like you, which means every stamp and every postal order you sold, you were paid for that to a certain extent. That's the way it worked, yeah.
Which is kind of like, I suppose, how modern enterprise works now. Like, it's all about returns and.
Yeah, I know, yeah, that's it.
And tell me, just in relation to, like, can you remember any of the people that used to come in there regularly into the post office? What kind of names would stick in your head, like, from?
They were all. The only names I kind of remember when I came down here, and I'd never heard of the name in my life, was Haberlands. I thought that, wonder that name, I wonder, and there were lots of them around here in different places, but I had never heard of that name at all since.
You never came across it?
Came across it up our way or anything else, A couple of names like that, but apart from that, no, everyone was the same. But you see, the thing is, before I came here at all, I knew an awful lot of the people, we'll say here, the younger people who I met at dances and everything else, like all those years, like we'll say, that I met Ned at 19, I was 19 and he was 19, but we didn't get married till, we'll say, I was 25, and in those years in between, like I've got to know, been with him and meeting everyone wherever we went, and that I got to know them all, And
then in the post office when you worked there, is there any stories from that time? Like, I mean, for example, would you have dealt with the postman then? Would you?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
And then what about things like telegrams?
He went on his bike in the early days, we'd say, Dick Murphy. He went on his bike, and around the parish delivering, and then he got a car and he went around in the car. And then after that, they gave up, I can't remember what year now, they gave up, and the post was delivered then from Waterford, and it was a postman from the GPO that would go around the whole area, But he'd still come in, for his breakfast and all that. So that's the way it was.
and I mean, obviously I'm not asking about names, but could everybody write in those days? I mean, would everybody be able to come in and write for their sign or read letters and all that kind of stuff? Would there be ever?
I say they could, yeah. I don't really recall anyone now that wasn't able to.
Okay.
Read or write.
And what about telegrams? Would they come through you, or was that through Waterford?
No, they wouldn't. No, it wasn't a money order office. You just had postal order stamps and all this, and the post was the post was delivered to all the places. It all came there in the morning and it was delivered to all the different places, and in the evening then everyone posted, and the postman called in the evening again to bring it into Waterford, to be sorted and that. So my mother-in-law, you see, was the type of person that would bend over backwards to help people, you see. She just, So one Christmas morning we were having our breakfast. We lived over there at the time, for a couple of years, We were having our breakfast and a lady came in for a stamp into the kitchen.
On Christmas morning?
Yes. And she, whatever she wanted to stamp, I couldn't tell you, and she gave it to her. She went, that was in her day, we'll say. When I was there now, I had a time lock safe all the years, and I couldn't do that, everything was out of bounds. You just couldn't get it even if you wanted to. And then in the night, there was the phone over there was in an outside office, which was locked at night. And people used to be coming to make phone calls out of hours, we'll say all hours, and she'd have to unlock it to facilitate them. Nobody had, very few anyway had phones in their homes in those days, or nobody had mobiles, of course. But one night I remember in particular, but it just happened often that farmers would come and say, and they'd want to ring the AI, and they'd have a cow that would need attention. And I remember getting out of bed one night at 11:30 to come down to unlock that office to make a phone call for a farmer. That's the way life was, kind of a thing, But we didn't have to do that, like any of those things. It was locked at 5:30, we'll say, in the post office too. She could just go off and enjoy herself or whatever, but she just... but I thought the stamp Christmas morning, really tickled me pink.
and did you, when the days when the operator would have to put you through and all that kind of stuff on the telephone?
Yeah.
Was that through Waterford? That was, from the telephone? When you rang here, would you have to ring Waterford to get a line, or how did it work?
Can't remember. You still. I'd say you just made it in the ordinary way, like we say that. Around kind of, and you just dial. But I mean, I know what you're talking about, because before, when I was in Pilton, before I came down, that's the way they did in the post office. You twist the handle and all that. If you went up to the post office to make
someone would have to put you through.
Exactly, and Wars and Pilton. But I mean, it wasn't in those days, that. Yeah, they could make the phone call themselves, but you see, the office was locked, and out of hours,
Yeah. And then, how did you? I suppose, was it through the children then you got to know the people in the area? How did it work? I mean, how did you become part of the community as a blow-in?
Well, my husband knew everyone, and everyone knew him, and he knew everyone in several counties, yeah. So.
And he was well known. Was that through Clover Meats, or what was that through? Or was it because his family had the post office, or what?
I'd say his personality. I don't know. He was into everything, wasn't he? He was, up the county everywhere, whether they were from here or there, or Castlecomer or Mulnavat or wherever, seemed to know, knew everybody, yeah.
Kitty, what postmen did you have in your time?
Dick Murphy first, and then Paddy Burke for years and years. Paddy Burke used to come out, and Paddy Burke always had his breakfast over there, and he... But then in the evening, you see, when people came, the postmen that came to collect in the evening, you could have anybody, several postmen, different postmen came in the evening, they'd be going from Ross and after collection down along and going back into Waterford.
Before Dick, who was the postman here?
Oh, I don't know how long Dick was there. He must have been there for a long, long time. Yeah. He was there before I came anyway. Yeah.
And then what kind of, can you remember at that time when you started off first, what was pension for old people?
Gosh, I don't know. What was it? I can't say now, because if I said something I'd say the wrong, I don't really know now, but I mean, of course, an awful lot less than...
Yeah. And would you know who would come in regularly every Thursday, or who was the people that would come in first?
Oh yeah, you would, yeah. You know
a routine.
Yeah. Knew everyone, everything about them. It was kind of like going to confession when they came in.
You'd hear all the gossip.
Yeah. You would. They were good old times, they were very good. Very good, lovely people, and that.
And what was your own social outlet? What did you do as regards, having a bit of fun when you lived here? Did you go to dances, or did you go to...
Oh, well, I didn't go to many, some after that, but kind of it was, we had a good branch of the ICA here and that, and things like that, you know. He went to different functions for that, and different... then things, as the children came along, things they were involved in and so on, you know.
And the ICA, was it different groups of women, or was it all one group, or who were they? Who were the people that you remember that were active in the ICA?
There was a committee that formed it way back, but I was a member in Piltown before I even got married, like of the one in Piltown. But people here, it was the oldest one actually in the county. Like, it's not functioning anymore now, but I mean, it's celebrated. It's the people around here. Miss Barton now, she was down from just down there. Where is the gym? Arton's, she and Margaret Power from the pub in the Mile Post, people like that, they started it, I believe, like way back, which was long before I came here, you know. And
Miss Barton, was she a Protestant lady? Okay, so it was a mix between Protestant people and...
Oh yeah, non-sectarian, non-political, yeah.
So, I mean, would they be... I mean, was there very much kind of like everybody was one group as such, or was there a different like...
Yeah, and there was competitions, and we entered things like, we'll say, you know, for the whole county, like make and model, and members made clothes and modelled them at the thing, and they had make and model up in Kilkenny and places, all the branches from different places, you know, and we won the first prize a few times, like there'd be 6 members, we'll say, that should make their own garments and model their own garments and that, you know. We had a good crowd in it, and it was very interesting, you know. And
was it mostly dressmaking?
It wasn't, no cookery demonstrations and everything like that, you know. And then there was members of the Federation, then we say there'd be Federation meetings in Kilkenny in different places, and you go to them and meet all the members from different guilds in the county. And then we'll say the head office was in 23 St. Stephen's Green, and I mean the green on up in County Louth, you go for weeks up there, you know, that they'd be different courses, we'll say, on different weeks. We'll say I went a couple of times. Lads just laugh at me, car maintenance. And they'd be flower arranging. Now, a good few of us went one of the times, and some of them were flower arranging, and so it was gorgeous weather, and we were out kind of doing car maintenance, and she wasn't a bit interested. I didn't know the first thing about what was under the bonnet of a car. Only if it went, I went with it, and, you know. But anyway, it was really enjoyable, things like that, you know. That.
And you know the way, like we say, the Protestant ladies, they'd be living in a kind of different kind of a life to we say the local women here. I mean, was that kind of interesting for you to meet up with these people that were living in this? I mean, they were probably from the big house tradition and stuff.
Oh, I wouldn't think anything of it, because where I came from, there's an awful lot of Protestants now, more than any other place in the county, Piltown. I mean, we lived up in front of the church, the other side of the road from the Protestant church in Piltown, and the number of people that went in there on a Sunday now to service would nearly be as many as the people who went to Mass. And up in Kilmagany it's the same thing, because we used to be up there on holidays, and you'd see and there in that area there were an awful lot of Protestants. And it was from the time the big house, Bessborough House as it was called, you know, it is the Agricultural College now, and that was Lord Bessborough lived there, and they built all the houses in the village way back in the days, and they were all their workers and everything else like that, you know. And that's why, I suppose, maybe and then so many people worked for them, like, you know. Big house, kind of like Curmore House or whatever, you know. And so they all came there in that way, I suppose, really, way back, you know.
But, like, for example, in Piltown...
So it was nothing for us now to kind of, you know, I mean, it was...
To mix?
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, I believe Lord Bessborough, or one of the Lord Bessboroughs, or whoever it was, way back, gave the site for the Catholic Church in Piltown, way back in the, so I was told, so I grew up believing anyway, yeah.
But there was no situation where, for example, you know, the Catholics went to one pub and the Protestants went to another pub, or the Protestants went to a certain shop and the Catholics went to another shop. Was there anything like that in those days?
No, and
Okay.
discrimination. No, we went to school with them and they were the same classes as them. You know, the only thing was they went out or home for their lunch, we'll say, if maybe whatever was on from 12 to half 12 or whatever, you know. And, you know, I had a couple in my class now in national school, you know, and they were the same as everybody else.
Yeah. And the other way the women mixed in the ICA, where did the men mix? Was that in just through the GA, or what was that? Was it when you were growing up?
I don't. When I was growing up.
No, I'm saying
Oh, yeah.
when you were living here in Slieverue.
Oh yes, yeah.
Your social outlet was the ICA. Like that was one of the.
Well, that was one of the
Yeah,
things.
all the
Yeah,
women met
yeah,
up.
we hurling matches, and we went to all the hurling matches on summer's evenings and that. When Slieverue were playing in wherever, like, you know, you went to them, like in Wonkine or wherever, you know, in summer's evenings and all that, you know, met all the people there, you know, so. Yeah.
And what about like your children then? That when they all went to school here in Slieverue, the primary school.
The old primary school was up the mountain road, and when my son started, he was going up there for a while, you know, and then this new school was built over beside the post office there, and so they went there then, you know. The old school up the mountain road, that's where we met, we'll say the ICA met as well, and different groups like that met up there, had the monthly meetings there and that as well, you know, in that same building. Yeah.
And then where did they go to secondary school then?
My sons went to De La Salle,
Okay.
yeah.
Waterford.
My daughter went to Ferrybank to the Sacred Heart of Mary in Ferry, yeah.
Okay.
Convent, yeah.
And at this stage, would you see yourself as a Slieverue woman?
Well, it was longer in Slieverue. I gave more of my life in Slieverue than I did in Piltown. As I say, I was 25 when I came down here, and
Yeah.
I mean 20. So I was up there like only, you know.
And would you still have family up there?
Excuse me, not in the house now, like, you know, that's gone. Well, the house is not gone, but I mean, my youngest sister, like, she's in hospital now, like, she's in a nursing home actually now, and she's the only one in the family apart from myself that's left, you know, that, so she was married outside Carrick, like, you know.
Okay. It's
Yeah.
not too far away now.
Oh, no, yeah.
And would you have gone up much to the IGSE show?
Oh, yeah, every year, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And was that always a family tradition to go to it?
Oh, yeah. At home in those days, like we say, we had a front yard and it would be absolutely chock-a-block wherever a boy could fit. when the show was on, like, you know, I mean, there wouldn't be enough room for all the bikes standing on the ground. Some would be up on top of other ones and all that sort of thing, because the entrance to the show was just only a couple of yards down below our house, just on the corner, we say, between our house and the village, you know, and everyone kind of were going in there and didn't want to bring their bike. At least maybe they weren't allowed to bring bikes, I couldn't tell you, but all the bikes were left there. I don't know how they sorted them out in the evening or who found whose bike or anything else, but that's the way it was in those days.
And what's your earliest memory of the IGSE show? What would be your memory, your first memory of it, when you're very small?
Well, one of my memories anyway was myself and my sister. We got, as I said, we had aunts in America. They were after sending us 2 lovely little handbags, and we went off sporting those to the show. And a fella was running by us and grabbed one of them. And that's one of my memories of the show now, kind of, you know. That
Like he robbed them? Like,
yeah, ran off with it. There was nothing in it. What were children of 7 or 8 or 4 or 5, I don't know what age we were,
yeah.
having your handbag, you know.
Were you very upset?
I don't know, but I still remember the white bag and the green bag. Oh gosh, you know.
And like the show hasn't really changed an awful lot in some ways, has it? Like they still do the tug of war. And
Oh
they still
yeah,
do all
yeah,
that
yeah,
stuff.
and the horse jumping and all that sort of thing. No, it was huge even way back in those days. As you know, sure, it's 100 and what years now, you know, but huge crowds and all that. Even in those days when people hadn't the same way of travelling, you know, I don't know how there was such huge crowds.
And would you ever enter things into the competitions around when you were with your family around that?
Oh no, we didn't enter. Even though we had all sorts of vegetables in the garden. I mean, we could have won lots of things probably, but didn't have time for that. But no, I didn't. But in later years, like I mean, competitions, we'd say like I say, EIGSE would have crafts and things, you know, that enter into it, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all run by voluntary groups.
That's right. Yeah. Mm.
And I believe even the land is owned now by the.
Which is a different place now, you see. Where I'm talking about, where it was way back in when we were young, was on the grounds of the college. What's the college now? It became the Oblate Fathers in those days. When I was at home now, we'd say that was the Oblate Fathers. It was a seminary.
Okay.
And I remember we had every year in June we had ordinations in Pilton at 6 o'clock in the morning. There'd be several priests ordained, and a lot of them were from Africa and that, and they were black. And I mean, in those days when anywhere in Ireland didn't see black people, we did, like, you know, because they were all students at the college, you know. And so the house was empty, the Bessborough house, for years, because we used to go picking primroses around it in spring and all that, you know. But then it was acquired by the Oblate Order, and then eventually they built their own chapel up there, you know, and the ordinations then took place in the chapel after that, you know. But they had a lot of students up there.
And the show used to happen on their grounds?
In the grounds, yeah, there, yeah.
Okay. And does the show go right back then to when Lord Beesborough was there, however?
Up to where?
The show was going 100 and something years?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So was it originally then part of the Lord's land? The Lord that owned?
Oh yeah, I don't know. Well, I gathered it was always in the one place, like, you know, that was. Except in recent years now, it has gone up beside the hurling field on the road to Templorum, I say, you know, above where we call the Grand Gates. Well, the Grand Gates was another entrance to that domain, like the Bessborough, you know. There was a wall all around it, we'll say, around by Pilton, up around, all around, over the Bog Road and around the other way, and all that was the land of that particular house, you know, in those days. So...
And just, you know, to go back to some of the, because I suppose you would have known old people that were, you know, 100 years ago, people that were alive 100 years ago, whatever. Would you remember any of the kind of old sayings or old beliefs that people had way back? Do you remember any of those ones? Do you know what I mean? Like, people would have a thing like on May Day, they might, on May...
Oh yeah, the Maybush, yeah. We put up the Maybush, yeah.
What kind of ones would you remember? Any of the fish oaks or the sayings that people used to have about? Or any of the cures? Do you remember any of the remedies that people used to have for?
I know, yeah. Water from wells that cured things. No, not sure. Can't recall now. Yeah. I'm sure there were, like, you know, that.
Okay, Jim, is there anything else that you can think of we should be asking?
No, I think you've covered quite a range.
Okay. Is there anything on you?
No, I hadn't. I was
You're happy enough.
just after. I just a couple of things to remind me, but I'm after saying. I'm after saying them all.
Brilliant. Listen, thanks very much.
Sorry.
That's
Yeah,
great.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Right.
very much.
Thanks. Yeah. Oh gosh, I don't know now.